All right, Marshall, let's start with your full name and some of your background history.
Okay. My name is Marshall Hilton. I am a mechanical engineer with a large company called ARUP, A-R-U-P. Um, with that company, I do a variety of technical work as well as project management. Um, from a very small project up to projects including 50 buildings and team members 50, 60 in size. That's my day to day. Outside of that, I'm involved in the San Francisco Bike Kitchen, which is a collectively run, volunteer run DIY bike shop. And I have been involved there for about 2 years. I've been a mechanic there for about 2 years and have been instructing classes for about 6 months now. I'm involved at the Crucible, which is a school of metal and fire arts in Oakland. I advise them with mechanical engineering, typically with ventilation issues they have, and they pay me in classes. So through that, I've gotten a pretty good background in welding, machining, and blacksmithing. Um, but I guess, I mean, more about me. I have a strong interest in permaculture, sustainable design, social justice, and I aim my life in those directions. Two more quick pieces. I'm involved with a collective in Lawrence, Kansas, called the Cosmic Beauty School. I am helping them through a construction project that they're doing on their house. It's a housing collective that also has a lot of community interaction. Um, and last thing is, the beginning of last year, I biked down to Casita, which is a collaborative. Sorry, it's in Oaxaca, Mexico. I cycled there from San Francisco, and I spent a month there apprenticing on bicycle-powered machines. These are folks that trained with Maya Pedal in Guatemala, but now have their own shop in Oaxaca, just outside of Oaxaca City. And I spent a month there. A lot of what I did was fix up bikes that they had that were donated to sell to raise money. But I was also involved in building and designing bicycle powered water pumps. Um, I was there for about a month, small collective in Oaxaca. But yeah, that's my background. That's what I've been doing. If you want any more information about any one of those, I can speak to those.
Okay, that's amazing, man. It's really inspiring. Can you talk more in depth about your professional experience? Like, what kind of did you say you're a mechanical engineer by training? You went to school
Yes,
for that?
I'm a licensed mechanical engineer. I also have a master's degree in architecture,
Wow.
and I typically work with architects.
Okay, do you have any experience with electrical systems as well?
I do. I During the early part of the recession, um, we had a lot more electrical work than mechanical work, so I actually spent a year in the electrical group. And this is building design around electrical systems. This isn't necessarily circuits and very small scale, but the point is I do have a background in different voltages and that type of.
And you do you feel confident that you could apply those plans in a practical way? Doing
Absolutely.
okay, awesome. So, are you interested in applying for the project management product director role, where you would be directing multiple projects, or what would your involvement with OSE be at this time? ideally?
My understanding is there's two different options. There's the one that's on a specific project and one that's more the project director. Is that
Yeah, so we have modified our plans a little bit right now. To take a step back, we're writing a strategic plan that's going to be pretty straightforward, and we're gonna stick to that. So, although our plans have changed, they're not going to change too much from this point on once the plan is approved by our board of directors. So,
okay?
what that new plan looks like is we're going to try and instead of developing multiple projects and multiple machines at the same time, we're going to really focus on building a team to do one project really well and get this process in place,
Okay,
and then we're going to scale it. So there's going to be a team, there's going to be a project manager for that team, one of those, so one project manager, and then we are also recruiting a products director, which is just someone who would oversee multiple project managers.
hmm
Um,
yeah. The specific project manager role is the most interesting to me. If it seems as though I mean, and that's specifically because I would like to be using my hands. Um, if the project director role also had, room to actually do work on the ground, I would be open to that too.
yeah, okay, awesome. So, are you when is your availability to come to Factory E Farm in Missouri?
Well, based on the post, I was framing my stuff around July.
Uh huh.
It could happen sooner. Um, I actually have yeah, it could happen sooner. I'm of course full time with Arab, and there would have to be some negotiation around that on my end with them. Um, I could do July, and if needed, I could potentially do sooner than that. Um, Ju- Beginning of June sounds very soon, but that would probably be the earliest time.
And then, is there a time limit on your availability, or could this turn into a long-term involvement?
This could certainly be long. This could be long term. I'm open to that.
Awesome. Okay. Um, so let's see. I mean, there's a ton of questions that Martian's going to want to ask you in specific detail about what it would look like for you to be involved on a daily basis. Um, but I think the way that we would probably do that is schedule a second interview so you could meet with him.
Sure.
So I'll skip a lot of those questions and let him get into that with you. I think you've got you've got an amazing resume, and you've shown an amazing commitment to social justice issues in a diverse number of avenues. So I mean, there's a lot of overlap. Can you talk a little bit more about how do you problem solve the social element? Have you ever lived in community? How do you make sure that peace is kept between people and we're working together and living together? And do you have any experience with conflict resolution like that? Just how do you make it work personally and in community?
Cool. That's great. Yeah. Well, my current housing situation is a collective housing situation, which means to me that we share responsibilities, and we have regular intentional meetings and discussions um, to uh, to work through stuff that comes up, and stuff always comes up. I've been living in a collective situation for like three different ones for the last 8 or 9 years. Um, okay, and parallel to my machining and mechanical engineering experience and interest, I work on men's emotional um, emotional literacy work and men's emotional transformation work, specifically with male identified folks. Um, and through that, I've learned tools of communication and ways to identify my feelings, and also to speak through. I like the nonviolent communication model. I'm not married to it. I'm open to many types of communication models, but the nonviolent communication model I've found is very useful. Um, and I can see that showing up in a collective space, and that too vague?
Well, no, I mean that's good. I mean, it sounds like you're intentionally trying to learn the tools that you need to get along with people and also teach other people how to get along with one another. So that's cool. I'm personally, honestly, not familiar with the nonviolent communication model. So maybe you could talk more in depth about that, just to get more specific.
Sure. Okay, cool. Um, all right. Well, the nonviolent communication model, yeah, and what's great about this is even if I don't get involved there, you guys can you'll take this there. You'll you'll learn this maybe. So it's a model. The intention um, is to assist people to own their own feelings and projections and what they're bringing to it. Um, it's a response to a common way of communicating through reaction and writing emotions. This is a way to observe emotions rather than writing them. So it breaks down into 4 steps. The first step is data, is very specifically what happened, not you locked the door too early. I mean, too early would be a judgment.
Right.
It's separate from judgments.
Yeah, dude.
It's you did this at 8 p.m. Okay, so very clear judgment.
Yep.
Separating that then moving into feelings. I felt sad. And then feelings is hairy too, because a lot of times people will throw in feelings like, I felt attacked, which isn't really a feeling. It's kind of like saying that you attacked me. So
right.
Feelings, there's discussion in every one of these levels, and then needs. What I need is to feel safe within my home,
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then a request. So it's me taking on my observation, identifying the feelings that came up for me, what basic needs those trigger within me, and then no demand, just a request for something to change. So that's in a nutshell the nonviolent communication model, and I think it's great if you're starting from nothing. I think there's other options, and people can get pretty dogmatic about NVC, but I think it can be very useful.
Yeah, that's really amazing to hear that, man. I mean, I've independently gotten at least as far as step 1, right? Because I could see how complicated things can get when you don't get really simple about the emotion, the data, and when you throw in the judgments and everything. I've actually, yeah, I don't mean to hijack this and make this about me, but I definitely have been man, I could really use some tools for getting along and communicating, specifically right now with my girlfriend. So to have these kinds of tools, I mean, we're actively seeking to learn those tools, but it's cool that there's actually systems that people feel work, and they've put them in place. So that's awesome. Thanks for sharing
Absolutely.
that.
Just real quick,
Yeah.
communicating with my partner, an issue that's come up is I want to jump to nonviolent communication, and she doesn't necessarily want to be there. So we've come up with I don't know. We'll even use the safe word model, where I'll say a safe word when I'm feeling like things are getting a little bit too fiery, and I want to get into clear communication. So I let it. Yeah, just because that can be a reaction sometimes. People think it's too cellular and too enclosed. So yeah, just words of caution.
Yeah. It's got to work for both people. That's awesome, man. Cool. That's great. I think, potentially a couple hundred people will see that. Because,
Awesome.
we always get hundreds of hits on most of our videos. All right, well, before we stop recording, do you have anything you want to say in closing, or any other final questions?
One more piece I want to throw in. So this company I work for, ARUP, it's a large company with I mean, it essentially prides itself on about having 10,000 specialists around the world. And I currently have access to that intranet and that brain trust of information. It's an engineering multidisciplinary firm, um, and folks within the firm are talking about open source ecology
Wow.
across our intranet. And whether or not I'm involved there on the ground, I see potential um, support. I see a way Arup can support open source ecology, um, and whether or not I'm there, I'm interested in working to facilitate that support. If I am there, it'll be more in my face, and my intention to be there would not be to leave my job cold, but to maintain contact and maintain access to the knowledge base within the intranet, as well as all the folks that I can have access to um, at any minute around the world. There's 90 offices around the world with just a huge number of specialists. So I just
What kind of resources?
say it one more time.
What kind of human resources you got? Like what kind of people with what skills? Like do you have people who can do like product design and CAD work, technical writing, or what kind of advisors are you
Okay,
talking?
okay. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm not really thinking about production. I'm thinking more about um, technical support. So these are structural, mechanical, electrical engineers, illumination designers, acoustical consultants. Um, we have a group called I'm blanking on it. Advanced technology and research, and they're on the front end of structural systems design as well as computational fluid dynamics, and not necessarily product design specifically, but yeah, everything from civil engineering to buildings engineering and consulting around planning and
It sounds like we could get a lot of independent review through that network.
I think that sounds like a good observation. I would agree.
So that's a huge resource. All right, this is really exciting. I'm gonna send this to Marchin this morning. Make sure
Cool.
he sees it.
So March, I know March, and I've been to Factory Farm
Oh, you
um,
have.
about 5 years ago
Oh,
when it was he and Brittany, and I was the president of the emerging green builders at Kansas University, and we went out there for a weekend, and we helped build the Cobb structure. Anyways, so Martin knows me.
okay. Even better, man. Okay, well that was an excellent interview. I'm gonna close up shop, and
Cool.
but stay on the line for a minute.
Okay.
Um,